Hey everybody, this is Craig. Say I'm just going through here, going to show you a quick Lightroom demo of what I do to essentially edit picture files that I take with my DJI Mavic Pro drone. Now, I typically shoot a larger sensor than what the Mavic Pro has, and you can really see that when you get into low light situations as far as ISO, noise from things like that, as well as the quality of the images that we get from the drone. So I'm going to take you through how to do, or basically what my workflow is for getting pretty cool shots of with my Mavic Pro. So what we're looking at here is a simple picture that I took basically above my house of a sunrise one morning. And we're going to show you how to get from this to this. So it's pretty saturated, but it's whatever you like, I suppose. So we're going to start with this. So first thing first, with the Mavic Pro, they do allow you to do auto exposure bracketing. With the auto exposure bracketing, you can actually take multiple pictures at different exposures, kind of do that HDR effect. Basically makes it so you can have more information about the picture than you normally would with a single exposure. And since the Mavic is pretty rock solid, you don't have to worry about camera shake or anything like that. Even in pretty high wind, I've had pretty good luck. So the way to do that in the Mavic Pro is to simply just go to the picture options once you have your picture set, and go ahead and click the button that is the little box. Scroll down to where you see AEB, exposure bracketing. I always do 5 because it doesn't hurt to get more information than you need, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I always shoot in RAW, so the DNG format with the Mavic Pro, as well as low of ISO as I can, so usually 200. So we're going to do, if you have the newer version of Lightroom, you can actually do this straight in Lightroom, but since I am still rocking Lightroom 5, I haven't converted over the subscription. We're just going to do that in Lightroom 5 real quick. So we have our multiple exposures that we took with the Mavic Pro. And we're just going to go ahead and take a look. We have our 5 exposures here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can just highlight these, and we can just highlight these, and I actually use another program called Nick from Google, and we can actually export it straight into HDR Effects Pro 2. When we do this, it's going to take these images similar to the way Lightroom will, and basically process all of them so that you get all of the pixel information for the image. So basically it'll load up. There's some standard options that you can pick. So basically our alignment, ghost reduction, it already has the information about our exposures and chromatic aberration, and just go ahead and click Create HDR. So what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and align all exposures and merge all of them together to get the most information that we can. So now as you can see, we have our default that it had created. It's a little bigger, and it already does a pretty good job without having to do much for edits of actually just making it the way it was when we actually looked at it, not through what it was with the camera from the DJI. So this is our default, which gives you a pretty flat profile. Another one that I typically use would be dark. So basically, you can go through here and pick whichever one you like. I think for the most part, the default is probably the better way to go, just because it's more flat. We can actually do our adjustments in Lightroom. So now I've imported the HDR that we had made from HDR Effects Pro 2. So if we look at this guy, see, it already looks pretty good. And this is really mostly just out of the camera, just using those 5 exposures to essentially merge what was there. So when I usually shoot out of the DJI Mavic, I try and keep everything as flat as possible. And like I said, this was a sunrise. The sun was just coming up over the horizon, so everything was very, very saturated with the yellow light from the sun this time of year. So once we have our image, we can go ahead and start making tweaks. One thing people like to tweak is the highlights. You don't have to do so much of the highlights and shadows tweaking with after you've done it through HDR Effects, but if you use the Lightroom HDR plugin, these items will have to be tweaked a little bit more because I think HDR Effects Pro actually tweaks the highlights and shadows for you for the most part. We can go ahead and click on our Alt button just to see what our whites look like. As you can see over there by the sun, we're starting to get some peeking through. So we'll go ahead and set our whites around there. We'll do the same thing, click Alt for our black so we can actually see where the darks are coming through. As you can see, we're getting right on the edge there. We'll go ahead and leave it right there. I usually like to keep the exposure and contrast pretty much the same until I'm closer to the end of the edit of the photo. Saturation, this is already fairly saturated, so maybe just a little bit down to get it more of a flat image. Down with the vibrance just a little bit. And here we can start working with our tonal curves. With our tonal curves, I usually like just to do a simple little S curve just to get our highlights and contrast coming. So as you can see, we get the contrast from the shadows of the sun hitting the trees coming through fairly well. Looks pretty good. Really, this is all about taste and how you like it. So we have our hue, saturation, luminance. One thing I like about these options is you can actually just use this little picker and you can pick which color you want, more saturated or less saturated. So I always like a blue sky, so I'll do that. And then for luminance, let's get our green just a little higher, just so the green pops a little bit more. That's looking pretty good. I typically add a little bit of sharpening. When I do that, I use the Alt button on the masking. Just kind of go through and see where your sharpening lines are going to be. So when you do that, you can actually see what's going to be sharpened after you move the sharpening up. Usually around 50. It's a good number. As you can see, it's looking pretty good there. Now this luminance, this is always a good one. This one really gets rid of all that noise. So since this was fairly low light, we're using our Mavic. Like I said, it's not the best sensor for that. The luminance is going to take care of these little speckle dots that you see here. I typically don't want to go much over 30. As you can see, when you move it up, those dots start to disappear and we're starting to get left with a nice looking sunrise there. Go ahead and do the basic, remove chromatic aberrations. I don't think we need to mess with post-crop vignetting. Let's see, we do need to crop it though. For this type of thing, it always looks a little better when you do a wider angle shot. Make sure we get our rule of thirds down. And actually maybe even let's go 16:10 probably. Go ahead and make that a little bigger. So now it's looking pretty good. And if you really want to get creative, you can use the gradient filters to change how the look and feel of the whole image is. As you can see, it works pretty good for adding just that effect of maybe darker in the sky where it's lighter on the land type of thing too. And really sometimes a lot of these images won't have quite the detail that this one does, so I'll go ahead and use the brush and just kind of paint in different areas where you want lighter or more contrast type of things. Actually, I think that's a little dark yet, so right there looks good. So yeah, we have our crop, we have our contrast, maybe just a little bit lighter, and that's looking pretty good. Like I said, it's all about what your personal preference is, so go ahead and play with it however you want, and just kind of create the image that you were envisioning while you were taking the picture. So